Yo, what's going on, EDC, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about the equipment that I usually bring in the private security industry, just basic bare bones besides my duty belt. At the current location that I'm at, we don't really bring it on us because the client doesn't want that. So here's what I bring, and here's kind of 4 tactics that I use while on the job that you can also use in your everyday life. It's protecting yourself and to keeping things a little bit more secure in your day-to-day life. So, starting off with the equipment that I bring to work, first things first, a notepad. Why do I bring a notepad? Because I've talked about this in a previous video where if something happens, I need to write it down. I need to write the time and specifically what happened, who the person is, or at least what they were wearing if you can't get their name, and have a good description as factual as possible. No opinions in it, but I need it to be brief as well so I can continue doing the job. I want it fresh in my mind, so while it's still fresh, I write it down because you're not going to be wrong if things go further down the line into court or you're brought into something like that. So first things first, notepad. Now second, you need a pen to write all that information down. So I always keep a pen and a Sharpie on me. I keep a Sharpie on me in case I need to write something that a pen can't write on. For whatever reason that may be, even if it starts raining or if I need to write it on my hand and I don't want it to come off or whatever the case may be. I also bring tourniquets to work, so I've marked the time with the Sharpie on a tourniquet because pen's kind of hard to write on that. Also, in the military, we're trying to put a T on the forehead if somebody needed a tourniquet. I'm still going to apply that to civilian sector. I would put a T on the forehead saying, hey, there's a tourniquet applied. Even though they might see it, it's easier to see somebody that has a T on the forehead and like, what does that mean? Tourniquet. Got it. Swear. So, notebook, pen, Sharpie. What else do I bring? I bring a laptop. During the day, I actually have a form that I fill out throughout the day in more detail my official formal report. Now that's more specific, that's more into detail. That's not a field, it's not brief. That's at this time I was doing this and da 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 da. It was more specific and it's time by time that I do something, whatever I see, write it down. So more specific, more formal, more long, and again more specific. So bring a laptop to write that form out now throughout the day because I have the time to do that throughout the day. Not everybody does, which is why you take field notes as well, but I have that time, so I do that while on the job. Now, next, I also bring a knife, because you never know when you can utilize a knife to cut things open, to cut things off, to cut people's clothes in case we need to for whatever reason. If you don't have the shears, not everybody's going to carry medical shears, so sometimes if you know what to do, you can use it to cut off garments or anything like that. So you can use a knife for a lot of things. So always bring a knife. Flashlight. I bring a flashlight for the nighttime. Majority of the sun sets down pretty quickly now, so I always bring a flashlight, check on the inside, we turn off all the lights at night. So I use a flashlight, make sure nobody's hiding in places they shouldn't be, and then outside when I do exterior patrols to light up anything. And also I talked about this on our story as well, that you can use it to shine somebody in the eyes, temporarily blind them if they're trying to present a threat, and get off the X and do what you need to do from there. Now, that flashlight comes in handy a lot at night, so always keep that on me. Now, those are a couple of pieces of equipment that I bring to work, not everything. So there's that in the private security sector. Now moving on to tactics, 4 tactics that I use that you can use in your everyday life. So tactic number 1, I stay in the shadows anytime I'm trying to do a patrol. Now on the inside, it's kind of a little harder, only because we have motion sensor lights. Anytime you walk through an area, the lights turn on. Now, again, you can still get away with that because you can move around objects and kind of, even though the light turns on, that doesn't mean you're right underneath it. You can be somewhere in that general vicinity. So yeah, we know what kind of general area you are, but we don't know exactly where you're at. So you can be behind a box, you can be behind a gate, you can be behind whatever the case may be. So keep that in mind. Stay in the shadows. You can see a lot more if somebody exposes themselves to the light and you're not. Their eyes are going to dilate to that light and it will be harder for them to identify you in the shadows. Now, only do that if you're able to do that. If you're trying to be, you're trying to be on the opposite end of that, and someone's saying, "Hey, identify yourself," and you don't, now then you're making things a little hard. You're making yourself as a bad guy at that situation. You always be able to identify yourself to make people aware and to save your own hind end. Now, moving on to tactic number 2. So when I do any patrols, especially outside, I stop look, I listen, smell. If I hear something, I hear yelling, if I smell something that's out of the ordinary, or if I pass something that smells a little weird, one sector of an area that smells weird, I'll stop and I'll smell it, see where it's coming from, if it's a fume that I've noticed before, if it's a fume that I know that's not right, that's toxic or something like that. You also need to be careful with fumes. Some things can be harmful to the body, so keep that in mind. Don't sniff it for too long, don't try to get a headache, don't try to huff it, just that's not right. Where is it coming from? You don't just sit there and smell it. But also, they're good landmarks, right? So let's say you're going to a facility where it's a big facility and you know one certain area smells like a certain way, right? Now, if you go there again and it smells different, then you know something's off. You probably should go check it out, make sure everything's okay. Even if nothing's wrong, even if, you know, you're probably like, it's fine. Go check it out anyway. It's better to be safe than sorry. Now, you stop, survey the area, look around, make sure you don't see any immediate threats, anything that's not supposed to be where it shouldn't be, and listen. Listen for trucks, people, conversations. Now, not necessarily eavesdrop, but sometimes that's okay depending on the industry. And in private security, I try to stop and listen to see if people are trying to talk about, hey, let's go take X, Y, and Z out to the back or whatever. Let's go steal this or take that. I do that because that's part of my job, to protect that. So again, I'm not there to eavesdrop necessarily to, well, let me get in your business. But if they're not talking about it, I'll move on. So you just want to stay in the shadows to be able to do that, to be able to have that choice of like, okay, I'm good. They're not talking about anything I need to care about. Let's move on. Now, my next tactic is to change my patrol pattern. Now, if you're inside of a building, even if you're outside, you have a general route that you like to do over and over and over and over. That's not necessarily good, especially if there's people on site and depending on your job, because now you're predictable. Everybody knows where you're gonna go and how you're gonna get there. If somebody's watching you, even if you don't know somebody's watching you, pretend like there's somebody watching you. So it's always good to change it up, and it might be helpful for you to kind of get out of that routine of doing the same thing, because then it gets kind of boring, you're tired of doing it. Change the environment, do different patterns, and this brings me on to my next tactic, is to change patrol times. Now, I usually give myself between 15 and 30 minutes before I do another patrol. Somewhere around it, anywhere in between there, I do my patrol, and I keep those times because it keeps me unpredictable. Nobody knows when I'm going to be up and moving. Nobody knows when I decide that I'm going to go on another patrol and do my pattern, and what pattern I'm going to do. So it's kind of like doing a combination lock. You have so many different combinations of times and patterns that you're doing that it's very hard to predict your next move, and no one can really know where you're going to go next. And that's why it's going to be harder for somebody else that's watching you to do something that they're not supposed to be doing when they can't tell where you're going to be at what time. So, hope this video was informational for you guys. Those are my 4 tips that you can use every single day of your life. You can wake up and go to the gym. You can wake up and go for a walk outside. You can change up your own patterns through your normal daily routine life. So, apply that to your life. Make yourself a little bit more safe. If you want me to elaborate on anything, let me know down below. Don't forget to send this to anybody that you think might benefit from it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Whew.